The Keeper of Shadows. Lyra gazed at the long shadows cast by twilight, feeling a strange tug as her own shadow seemed to shimmer and stretch in ways it hadn't before. She'd heard stories of the Shadow Realm, a place only the brave dared imagine, where shadows lived their own lives, far from the light. One evening, as she stepped across the threshold of her door, Lyra noticed her shadow didn't follow, vanishing as if swallowed by the dim light. She blinked, wondering if her eyes deceived her, but the feeling of emptiness by her feet confirmed her shadow was truly gone. Determined to retrieve her missing companion, Lyra took a deep breath, stepped into the darkness, and felt herself pulled into another world. She stumbled into an eerie landscape filled with twisting trees and creatures made of living shadows, each flitting between moments of form and mist. Shadows here danced with glee, some tall and slender, others hunched and twisted, laughing in voices that were barely whispers. Lyra felt both enchanted and frightened, sensing eyes that weren't eyes, watching from the corners of the shadowy landscape. A shape moved toward her, darker than any shadow, and Lyra froze as it resolved into a tall, gaunt figure with piercing, luminous eyes. The creature introduced itself as Noctis, a wise, ancient shadow who ruled this land and knew all its paths and secrets. "Your shadow has crossed over," he murmured, his voice like wind through branches, seeking a life of its own in our world. Lyra's heart pounded, realizing her own shadow had willingly left her, desiring freedom she'd never imagined it wanted. She asked Noctis to guide her, to show her the way through this realm so she could confront the shadow she had lost. Noctis agreed, warning her that every step here was a test, revealing truths of oneself that could not be unseen. Shadows slid around them as they walked, some pausing to whisper secrets that seemed to echo Lyra's own hidden fears. The path twisted like a dark river, leading them through landscapes that seemed to shift and ripple, half alive in the half-light. Lyra saw shadows forming shapes she knew, family members, friends, even herself, warping and changing like a restless dream. One shadow drifted close, its form merging and splitting, becoming an image of Lyra, yet it moved with a playful, wild grace she lacked. Noctis whispered, "This is Cressida, the shadow you seek. She has tasted freedom and may not wish to return to you." Lyra felt a pang of recognition, seeing in Cressida a part of herself she'd never allowed to exist, wild and unburdened by fear. Cressida twirled and danced, her laughter echoing in the dimness, taunting Lyra with the life she'd chosen to leave behind. "I am the part of you that never doubted, never feared," Cressida said, her voice smooth and clear as water over stones. Lyra felt her anger rise, feeling betrayed by her own shadow for abandoning her, for embracing things she herself was afraid to. "You don't understand what it's like to live with fear," Lyra argued, stepping closer to her shadow self, feeling her pulse quicken. Cressida only smiled, saying, "I was born of your fears, shaped by them, but I am no longer bound by them as you are." Noctis watched silently, his gaze thoughtful, allowing the two sides of Lyra to confront each other, a mirror of dark truths. Lyra clenched her fists, realizing she had held her own shadow back, suppressing dreams and desires she had been too afraid to embrace. She took a deep breath, feeling a strange calm as she looked into Cressida's eyes, seeing herself fully for the first time. "If you stay here, you will only be half of what we could be together," Lyra said, reaching a tentative hand toward her shadow. Cressida paused, her form wavering, a flicker of doubt passing through her dark eyes as Lyra's words settled into her. "Why should I return to a world of fear and limitation?" Cressida whispered, though her voice held a hint of longing. "Because we are whole together," Lyra replied, "and only in uniting can we face the fears that shape us and find true strength." A flicker of understanding grew in Cressida's gaze, a shadow of recognition that mirrored Lyra's own heart. She reached out, her hand meeting Lyra's, their fingers brushing in a moment where light and darkness mingled and merged. Slowly, Cressida's form began to melt, her shadow merging with Lyra's, returning to the place it had once called home. Lyra felt the shift within, a surge of power and peace, her shadow returning not as an echo, but as part of her heart and spirit. Noctis watched with approval, nodding slowly as Lyra's form glowed faintly, a newfound strength in her stance. "You are ready to return," Noctis murmured, his ancient gaze warm, though a shadow of sadness lingered in his eyes. Lyra thanked Noctis, feeling gratitude and admiration for this realm that had taught her so much of herself. The landscape around her began to ripple and blur as she prepared to step back into her world, carrying her shadow and newfound courage. Lyra felt a strange tug, a lingering connection to the shadow realm, as if a part of her would always belong to this place. With one last look at the shadows around her, she turned, stepping into the light and feeling the shadows slip seamlessly behind her. She emerged back into her world, the twilight calm and steady, her shadow faithfully at her feet, standing as her partner once more. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling a strength and steadiness she had never known, the darkness within no longer something to fear. She walked with purpose, feeling the unity of light and shadow, knowing they balanced each other within her. The night stretched before her, yet it felt inviting, the darkness a place she no longer dreaded but welcomed. She felt her shadow move beside her, not as a separate being, but as a true reflection of all she was and could become. Her fears, once shadows that haunted her, were now companions that offered depth, resilience, and courage. Lyra looked around, seeing the world differently, the night alive with a beauty she had once only seen as shadows. She no longer feared the shadows within herself, understanding that they held secrets, strength, and the truths of her heart. She knew the path ahead would be both light and dark, but now she felt ready, whole, and unafraid to journey forward. With her shadow as her ally, she could face any challenge, knowing that strength lay in embracing all parts of herself. She smiled, feeling as though the whole world had shifted, the shadows now familiar friends guiding her steps. Lyra walked on, her shadow a constant companion, a reminder of her journey and the courage she'd uncovered within. She felt ready for whatever awaited her, knowing the shadows would never again be something she feared but cherished. Her shadow and her heart were finally one, united in a bond forged through challenge, understanding, and acceptance. Lyra whispered to the night, "I am whole," feeling the truth of the words sink into her soul, settling like calm after a storm. The night enveloped her, a gentle cloak, as she walked forward, unafraid, knowing that light and shadow danced in harmony within. And as she moved through the twilight, Lyra knew she was ready for whatever mysteries lay ahead, forever the keeper of shadows.